atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
This town needs an enema.
Riddle me this, riddle me that. Who's afraid of the big black bat?
When Gotham is ashes, you have my permission to die. Gotham! This is your liberation.
My mother warned me about getting into cars with strange men.
This isn't a car.
20 years in Gotham. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He has the power to wipe out the entire human race.
Tell me, do you bleed? You will.
I want you to tell all your friends about me.
What are you?
He's a silent guardian. A watchful protector. In the dark night, I'm Batman. Let the games begin.
Welcome to the Batman on Film podcast. Here are your hosts, Bill, Jett, and Rick Shew.
Hey now. No Hey Now's back?
Hey now.
Hey now.
Hey now.
There we go. Hey now. Welcome and thanks for listening to the Batman on Film podcast. I am your host and the founder of BOF, Bill, Jett, Batman on Film is the sponsor and a proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Check all of us out at BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You are listening to Volume 2, Episode 48. Can you believe that, guys? 48 episodes?
Oh, wow.
We're going to do a year's worth for sure this year, you think? Definitely, huh? Only got 4 to go to get 52.
I believe so. Possible.
Yes. Volume 2, Episode 48 of the Batman on Film podcast. I am joined today by co-host Rick Shew. Hello, Rick.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
I'm great.
How's it
yourself, Bill? What's going on, man? You doing okay?
I'm all right. Texas lost
I think we're both a little
Kansas. So, but besides that, everything's fine. The weather's nice and crisp down here.
The rise and fall of the great Coach Strong is imminent.
I actually had to put my heat on this morning in the house. Can you believe that, guys?
Wow.
It was, I woke up and it was 59 in the house this morning. So anyway, and
that's like a hot summer day in your wife's hometown.
Yeah. Well, close enough. Yeah. From Minnesota to here. Yeah. They had a blizzard up there where our Minnesota house is. So I thought
for those of you non-Texans listening, just so you guys know, we don't really deal with winters very well here. It's actually pretty embarrassing because many years ago we hosted the Super Bowl and we had who played? It was Green Bay Packers and
Steelers.
The Steelers, Pittsburgh. Okay, so you had two teams coming from cold parts of the country. People traveling here. It happened to have a little sleet that weekend, so there's some ice on the ground. So like half the city shuts down.
Well, that was like a once in a generation fluke ice storm that
it was, but it was still in perspective. I mean, they deal with that on a typical Wednesday, 10-fold. And so I just remember talking to a lot of people because bar business and everything. Like, man, this town is kind of lame. Like, no, really, it's not. Just people don't know how to. They don't know how to drive on ice. Man.
These cities, the cities here in Texas aren't prepared for when you have an ice storm, which we do have every once in a while, or especially an ice storm. So up north, I mean, especially going up north and going to Minnesota and visiting and being there in the weather. I mean, they're ready for that whenever it happens. So anyway, moving on from the weather talk here. I'm also joined by BOF Roundtablers Justin Kowalski and Ryan Haas. How you guys doing?
Doing really well. I was laughing about the weather. Sorry, because I'm like, it was 56 this morning, and I'm freezing. I'm like, I have a blanket wrapped around me.
Is there how much weather is the weather pretty consistent throughout the year in your area of California?
It's warm. It was actually raining this morning too, for a minute, and anyways, yeah. I was just laughing. I was like, man, you guys really deal with cold.
Yes.
Justin, I remember when I lived in Van Nuys. I would lie and tell people I lived in Sherman Oaks. It sounded better, but yeah, I lived in the porn capital, and I can just remember not even using my AC and just windows up. Just it was great. You can't do that in Texas. It gets too hot.
Mm. Yes. And
let's just do an hour podcast about the weather.
Well, Ryan, you want to chime in on the weather in the southeastern part of the United States?
Yeah, I can contribute because I'm in Illinois right now, and it was in the 60s a couple days ago, and the bottom just dropped out of the temperature, and it's 28 right now, so I'm pretty chilly.
So you're getting acclimated to the Midwest, I'm sure. I mean, of course, you get a little winter from Eastern Tennessee and North Carolina, though, right?
Yeah, we do. We get some consistent snow, and it's cold and all that. But I've heard it gets pretty bad here. So
I would imagine.
Ryan, as you know, my wife's from Chicago originally, and that's most of her family's up there and everything. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, but there's a window. It's 4 months out of the year, and that's it. And that's when I want to go there. It's like basically June, July to like September, October, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. I'm out.
Yeah. I will say I love the summers in Minnesota when we go up there. And if you're listening in Minnesota, that would be up in the Brainerd's Lakes area of the state, which is very nice resort area. So anyway, enough of this talking weather and all sorts of things here. Let's talk a little Batman. And we decided we're going to take as many questions as possible mostly from Twitter. So let's go ahead and start. Mauricio, I believe it's at I'm maybe going to try that. I'm going to butcher it. So Mauricio F says, and this was probably for Justin and Ryan for sure. Did you see the Suicide Squad extended cut? If so, did you think the extra character moments made any difference for the better? All right, guys, y'all can answer. I haven't seen it yet.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's about it.
That's it.
It felt kind of there wasn't anything where I was like, oh wow, I'm glad they added that in there. Besides the scene, spoilers. Sorry if you haven't seen it. With the scene with Harley on the motorcycle and stuff like that.
That's the biggest addition.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing where you notice something. Oh, this is added. At least for me.
And even that scene to me is really just overdone. I don't
watch it.
Now I've seen the scene.
Oh, okay.
I've seen where the truck driver pulls up and everything that ensues, and and I like Jared Leto a lot in the role. I really do, but like all the criticism that he did get from certain people seemed to sort of be represented in that scene. To be honest with you, and I want to see it in context, but still,
and even in context. So here's the thing about it. So I read the novel, and I was looking specifically for things about the Harley-Joker relationship, especially after we've heard how different the character was in earlier drafts and all that. So in this extended cut, you get that one new scene that we were talking about, and you also get some extended lines of dialogue in the scene where he has Harley on the table in Arkham Asylum and all that.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it kind of just makes I think it makes what they're trying to do with the characters in that film a little bit more confusing too, because if you watch the theatrical version, it's more like Joker just really loves Harley, and it's very different than what we're used to. And with these additions, it comes more across the fact that he doesn't want anything to do with her, and she's it's just all a game to him and that kind of thing. And that's closer to what the novel was, but he was much more, even more abusive in the novel. So I think it just to me, it reads that they put back in this extended cut all that they possibly could without crossing the line, which unfortunately was not that much more Joker content.
Yeah, I wish they would have put more Joker footage back in, to be honest. It may have fleshed out that story more. I don't know why they didn't. It sounded like that was the biggest thing they cut, was all that story. Yeah, kind of kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, I don't know how much of an extended cut it is.
Would y'all say that? Because I said back when we were talking Suicide Squad when it was still out, that it was it was not a film that I thought got better upon each viewing. In fact, I thought I got a little worse. Is that still the case with this extended cut, or do y'all what's your opinion in that regard?
And we said that, I kind of said this yesterday when we were texting back and forth, was every time I watch BVS again, which I've watched way more than I've thought, I enjoy it. I'll get through it, and I'm like, minus the poop monster fight, I enjoy it more, and I get through it, and I don't like
something else to kind of learn from it or observe in it or something like that, right?
With my one rewatch of Suicide Squad, I was kind of like, man, I just want to get through this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'll try it again, but yeah, it just doesn't have the rewatchability for me. And here's the thing, and I heard before, people are like, you guys hate everything. I really like the cast. There's parts I really like, but yeah, it just doesn't have that rewatchability as BVS did. So.
Yeah, the extra scenes, again, all of them just enhance the characters more, which, as we've all said, is definitely the strongest part of Suicide Squad. But once you get that, there's no other meat to chew on. There's no other, because the story is just kind of there, and it kind of falls flat with repeat viewings. So there's not as much there. And yeah, I agree with you, Justin. I've watched BVS more.
And both of you guys, just for our listeners and maybe first-time listeners, remind us all your opinions on the BVS extended cut versus the theatrical release. It was an improvement in your opinions?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that. I'm just framing this for our audience. So, in other words, you guys liked the BVS extended cut, thought it did the original cut more justice, and then this particular case with Suicide Squad, not so much.
Yeah, so with Suicide Squad, it's the extended cut stuff is just more of the same.
Yeah.
With BVS, it's more justice. It changes the film. But doesn't change the overall through line and my rating of the film, but it changes the film for the better.
Yeah. I did like some of the special features on the available with the sorry, I want to say Blu-ray, but no, on the digital download. I like some of the special features. I thought that they were interesting to me. So
I'm getting a screening copy, so I'll go through all the extras and stuff. So I don't know how much my opinion will change. So anyway, we'll talk more. So once the Blu-ray comes out, we'll have a big discussion about.
Oh, that's fair.
About the extended cut. Was that what they're billing it as? Extended cut? Suicide
Extended
Squad?
cut.
Yeah.
Okay.
Extended,
all right. Very good. All right. Alex Cisneros says, not a question, just he's complimenting last week's podcast. Said it was a good one. Justin, did you get a chance to listen? You were not able to participate, but did you listen?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I listened that day.
What did you think?
I thought it was good. It's always good to have someone have a different opinion at times.
Mm-hmm.
There was times where I was like, "Oh man, Jett's gonna hit the blow up button on him." But it was good, and it didn't feel like he was being a jerk. It felt like, hey, this is my opinion, and then I think once he felt like you guys had a way different opinion, I feel like he kind of poked a little bit. He was poking the bear, but it was good, and it's interesting. It's good. It's good radio or podcasting to have a little bit of friendly tension.
Yeah. We'll get. We're gonna get Neil Turrets back on, and we're gonna talk about the Dark Knight trilogy. So.
I can't wait.
That'll be fun.
Already got my gloves are already off.
That's going to be just 10 minutes, an hour worth of yelling.
Yeah.
No, I'm really excited about that because
that's going to be fun.
I feel like I'm going to be in the middle of a fight with mom and dad, and like sometimes I'm agreeing with dad, but
I think that
might be right.
His opinion seems to be so far to me is that as movies he thinks they're great, except for Rises. But as Batman movies, they fall short because of X, Y, and Z. Whatever that X, Y, and Z is, I can't wait to explore that with him.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back.
XYZ is creative choices.
I mean,
and that's just it. And that's where I'm going to get in the weeds with, hey, man, if we're really going to talk about the origin of these characters in comics, I can make a strong case that these are very much so represented properly. But that'll be a fun conversation to have. The Rises thing is it's an exercise of futility at this point. It is a
it's banging your head against the wall.
People that hate Dark Knight Rises are
stupid.
I don't know what to do.
I'll say the only thing that, and I said, well, I'll save it for the when we talk about the trilogy, is that I don't know, the opinion that The Dark Knight isn't one of the greatest comic book films of all time. I don't find that a credible take. It's no offense.
My jaw dropped.
Well, remember what he said. He said that he loves everything that has to do with Batman and the Joker. He just wishes that Two-Face wasn't in it, and that all towards the end it was a little anticlimactic with him. If you take him out of it, it could have been the best comic book film ever made, but Two-Face watered it down.
Well, it's part of the.
That's at least a fair discussion to have.
It's part of the argument that people thought that Two-Face should have lived and went on to become the villain in part 3, but then that goes back to Nolan saying that you put everything, you don't hold anything back, you tell the story you want to tell, and the sequel will take care of itself. And I think that would have been it was so important to the entire theme and the storyline
theme,
was for him was for that to happen. So anyway,
I would say this:
it's Harvey's movie.
I wish he would have died a little stronger. That I will say that's the one part of the film. Just the way he dies is a little lame to me. And it takes me out of the film for just a second. It's still one of the best comic book films, if not the best comic book film ever made. The ending is gorgeous, and it almost brings a tear to my eye when I think about Commissioner Gordon, the way he's talking, and then Batman riding off. It's beautiful. But I will say this. I will concede that the point of how he died, maybe if that would have been a little stronger, maybe those criticisms wouldn't have been so profound. But that's
interesting, Rick, because the point of why he died is the direct catalyst for the next film.
Yes.
I understand. I agree that him dying had to happen. I'm saying I think his death could have been a little bit more. I just think it could have been executed better from a cinematic standpoint. We can get into that in the trilogy. That's the only minor flaw in the film. It's just
I don't agree with that, but we'll talk about it.
Like, is he dead? Oh, he's dead. Okay, I don't know. There's something about it that just could have been a little stronger.
Yeah, I just didn't like Gordon's son. He was kind of annoying.
Well, I really never.
I'm sorry, I'm just nitpicking.
No, I know. I never had an opinion on Gordon's son, so I guess I'll have to get one when we talk about the trilogy. All right.
I don't like Batman.
You didn't do it, Dad.
Thomas M. He says
that movie sucks.
He says, any new Joker news? At Jared Leto must return. Well, I agree with that. Rick emailed, I guess, all of us yesterday morning and said, any truth to this? And there was some outlet that I have never heard of before at all was making a claim that Jared Leto basically would have been fired by Warner Brothers in terms of repeating or reprising his role as the Joker in future films, and they were going to recast the role. And that is just, I did some checking, and it's total. Looks like it is bull. It don't look like it is bullshit.
I don't
it's
think
clickbait.
Any other outlet covered that.
No.
And I wouldn't say the name of who it is to give them any type of credit. It was super clickbaity, and a lot of people like on Twitter.
It was more like he's not in Justice League, and he's probably not in the Batman, so that means that he's not going to be in any movies.
Yeah. So the that came over from one of our followers who seems to know their stuff, and they had an article that they linked. I opened it up, and it didn't look. The article itself was well formatted. At least I didn't look at it on my phone. I was on my computer going, "This is probably 98% BS." This looks semi-legit as a page. I've never heard of it. That's why I sent it over to you guys going, what do you think? Probably bullshit, but just any word on this. So, yeah, I don't even know if this is worth us discussing. We all knew that was BS. But you put it, you send it, we have our little internal text and emails and everything. Sometimes you just never know. Sometimes something weird does happen. It is Holly weird after all.
Yeah. So my whole thing with that, even disregarding that story, if you just think about it, wouldn't you think that when Suicide Squad was being made and cast and all that, and as soon as it was known that Harley Quinn and the Joker were going to be in Suicide Squad, that Ben Affleck would have some sort of say or input, where they're like, oh, well, if you're going to put the Joker in this movie, I kind of need to approve of it so I can use him properly in whatever I'm doing. So it's not like he's not going to use the Joker in the Batman. So you would think that he had some sort of influence and sign off on it.
Yeah, besides that, we have to see him kill Robin, right?
Yeah, I wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they ever going to... I wonder if that story will ever be addressed, even in... It sounds like Ben Affleck's film is going to be set in the contemporary or the time. It's not a flashback film, but maybe they may do a flashback scene at some point. Who knows? I don't know. It's kind of it's a big deal to leave unanswered, or maybe they just want to leave it unanswered.
Well, I would hate if they did leave it unanswered because of all the buildup, because there is a Robin outfit in the Batcave. It just, well, there's too much. There's too much there.
And the direct reference in Suicide Squad as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can't gloss over that.
No, that is almost even more significant just because it's more specific.
Yeah, that's like the one thing from BVS where I feel everyone thought there's going to be some type of flashback or some type of like addressing of, and it's just the scene. He
just looks at it.
That's because BVS was made just for the fans, and that's part of the problem with the film. Even though I do like it. I don't hate it, but I'm just saying that's part of the problem with it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So it's very much a wink.
All right.
Think about it. If Nolan treated the Dark Knight trilogy as this is a definitive story, Batman's never existed anywhere. There's no other superheroes. There's a beginning, a middle, of an end. And I'm sorry, I have to use him as a frame of reference because he mastered the art of telling a Batman story on film. And then BVS is just it's this pre-existing Batman, and you have to know the history of all this stuff to get half of what they're referencing, and that's okay, right? I mean, it's okay for us. I'm just saying, in terms of the Main Street audience, I think that could have been one of the disconnects.
Probably.
You're the average person watching on what is this Robin suit? What happened? He's dead. Robin's dead. And then that goes unanswered and unaddressed. That's a little frustrating. I
wonder how many people would even know that was a Robin suit if you were just a regular movie go. I mean, you're not a comic book nerd or a comic book geek. We all knew what it was, but
hey, that's Chris O'Donnell's R. Maybe.
I mean,
you know what? That's that's one of the things that I try to pay attention to with what I call the dad test when I watched BVS with my dad, and that's something that he didn't even think about or ask about or anything. So I think it just kind of glossed right over, and it just didn't really make sense, or he didn't know why that was important. I mean, like you said, it's something that fans get, but if it's just kind of the way they do it in BVS is kind of thrown in there without any context. I mean, other than the fact that, Robin's dead, and that just is one more failure in his life that's put him in a bad spot. But
the Flash dream sequence, another example of what I'm referring to. Inside, like
you're trying to get me going on this because
that's just for fans, and it's really confusing.
Okay.
I mean,
it's like a comic book, Nick. It's just like a regular comic where they don't tell you what's happening.
All right. HH at Batboat77 ask us, and some of these I'm answering. I'm doing a mailbag, and so I'm answering some of these on the mailbag, but that's fine. I want to hear y'all's take on this stuff. Does the fact that Doctor Strange can make over $500 million in 2 weeks make BVS an even bigger disappointment for Warner Brothers? That's a pretty good question. I answered it in the mailbag, but now that $500 million is worldwide. It's not domestic. So, what do you think, Rick?
Listen, I mean, when I look at BVS, and it's still a fact that Deadpool, an unknown mainstream character that was rated R, starring an actor that already had a film in the comic book genre that failed, even though he's a badass, that's still a fact, and it made more domestically than Batman and Superman. None of this surprises me anymore. That's my answer to that. So I think at this point in time, Marvel films doing better at the box office than DC films is just something I'm accustomed to, and that may just be the case from here on out. I don't personally care as long as the DC films are so good that it supersedes, a few $100,000 at the box office, and say, cool, Marvel's more popcorn, let them do their thing. Man, I for one would prefer these DC films. Right now, Marvel's actually kind of making better movies. That's the problem.
I haven't seen Doctor Strange yet, which I'm going to this week since I'm on vacation for a week. But it was reviewed better. It has a 90% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. The cinema score was an A, which is better than BVS. And look, I said it in my mailbag. It doesn't matter if it gets to 330 some odd million domestic and 800 and some odd million worldwide and matches Batman v Superman. It's already it's a more of a success than BVS, period. Just because of what it is compared to what BVS was intended to be. I think Justin and Ryan, y'all have seen it, right?
Yeah, I've seen Doctor Strange, and it's good. I mean, I think I liked it a little bit more than Justin did, and I've seen a lot of our DC pals kind of hating on a little bit, just like thinking it's unbalanced and the humor is kind of falling flat and stuff. But for what I frankly, kind of expected and thought it was going to be, I thought it was pretty well made. But in terms of and like you said, Bill, it's not just the box office, but it's box office and reviews and critical reception and what the fans think too. It's all three of those. It's all that stuff.
And what it's intended to be. Doctor Strange isn't intended to be a $1 billion film.
It's
Batman
a single,
v Superman was.
Yes. It's a single character introduction film. And just to put that in check, if you go to Box Office Mojo, they've got the other little showdown things. Like, by comparison, 15 days into the run, Doctor Strange has made domestically $168 million, compared to Iron Man back in 2008 had already made almost $200 million by that time. So just kind of keep that in mind. And what's more telling to me for the DCEU films is the fact that Suicide Squad very nearly made the same amount as BVS domestically in its domestic run. And I think it was only $5 million short or so. So I think that kind of shows you more along the lines of BVS should have made more for what it was intended to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like Marvel is now just a brand that you trust. It's like Pixar. You're going to go see the next Marvel movie. You're going to go see Pixar. Like right now, Marvel can put out The Thing Eats a Bowl of Soup, and it's going to make like a whole bunch of cash because
is that Thing 1 or Thing 2? Because I read Dr. Seuss.
No, this is The Thing from the Fantastic Four. They don't even have the rights.
No, I was just being stupid. No. Move on. Stupid joke.
Yeah. So on both ends, right? But like I feel like they're just so trusted. You're trusted, and anything they do is going to make cash. Doctor Strange, for me, like this is not a Doctor Strange review podcast, but I just think it kind of hit the Marvel formula, and I left like, wow, visually really cool. Other than that, like the love interest didn't matter, the villain didn't matter, nothing mattered. But go watch it in 3D; it's really cool. It's like doing drugs.
I'm going to go see. I'm going to go see.
It's like doing drugs without having to do drugs.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that I'm glad that I saw it in IMAX 3D, and I don't think you'll be able to do that now because Fantastic Beasts has kind of overtaken that, which is really good, by the way.
Need to see that too. I'm gonna go see a couple movies this week.
Yeah. They had the Wonder Woman trailer before Fantastic Beasts for me in IMAX, and it was my God, it was great in 3D. And I can confirm that the letterhead at the beginning of that trailer, when she's looking at the picture, it is definitely Wayne letterhead.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So there you go.
All right. Let's see. Like I said, a lot of these I'm going to answer in the mailbag, so I'm not going to give too much of my opinion. I'm sure they want to hear y'all anyway, besides me. Well, this is a good one. Fernando says, is there anything from the Batman universe that is too comic booky, but you would still like to see on the big screen anyway? Here's what I said, and I think Ryan will like this or find it interesting. I kind of want to see what a good director, in this case Ben Affleck, can do with Robin. And I'm talking a traditional Robin alongside Ben Affleck's Batman. Cause there's, it's, you having a child fight urban warfare crime is put him in danger. It's kind of, It's
tricky.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's and I like the character of Robin, but when it comes to Batman, I like Batman alone. Mm-hmm. That's just me, and maybe it's because when I really started reading comic books in the early 70s that I can remember, that was the point where it hadn't been too far where Dick went off to college and Batman was solo and.
The penthouse.
And moved to and there was not much Batman and Robin anymore. So I cut my teeth on that version of Batman, the solo, dark creature of the night Batman. So, Ryan, that's kind of up your alley. I'll let you start on any thoughts on that question.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something.
And it's not just Robin. I mean, he said anything comic booky you would like to see, as well.
Yeah. But, in terms of that, I think that's definitely something that I feel like we should see. I mean, we've had other interpretations of Robin in the past, but I feel like none of them have really, of course, other than John Blake, of course, haven't really hit the mark in terms of day-to-day Batman patrolling the city with a kid and having it work and make sense. So it's definitely something tricky, but, and I kind of would like to see, I figured they would take their cues from like the Arkham games because that's kind of what I'm seeing reflected in a lot of other parts of the film of BVS. But you never know what they'll do. But I hope that's what they do. I want to see a giant penny and a T-Rex.
Oh yeah.
And it makes me wonder: is the Batcave that we see in BVS kind of a new annex kind of thing?
I'd like to see more
that's
of it.
Been made,
definitely.
Or was there an original Batcave that was really underneath Wayne Manor, and now they're kind of moved off to the side? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what I was wondering. If there's is there like an old cave with all that stuff in it, and the only thing that he moved into the new location was this new sterile location was the Robin suit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of want.
This is not really comic booky, but I would like to see different Batman costumes in cases.
Yeah.
And you could do some, homages to the original 1939 costume or whatever. So. And
they can still have it in the style of the film, with more, texture and all that. But it could be cool just to have a Bruce's sentimental kind of thing.
I love that. I love that idea. The memorabilia in the Batcave is always. That's just kind of fun, eye candy for people who get
right,
Justin, an umbrella or something.
Justin, anything comic book you'd like to see?
That's maybe it feels like anything's on the table. Like getting Killer Croc and Suicide Squad was bananas to me. I can't believe they did that. Yeah. Touching on the Robin stuff, that's something I would really like to see. I just don't want to see a Robin origin. I don't know. I'm kind of interested, but I get it. I just want to see Batman and Robin driving around in the Batmobile, but I want it to be super casual on the inside. I want Robin's feet up on the console and they're talking, and then all of a sudden, all right, Robin, let's go. They have to snap right into mission mode. I just think to see the relationship of Bruce and Dick, even Batman maybe, cracking a smile at Robin enjoying himself being Robin, and then just in a minute, okay, now let's slip back into Batman and Robin mode. Mm-hmm. Just to see the relationship. Jump in the middle of it and not at the beginning of it, I guess.
How old do you want Robin to be?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's always 12 or 13, when he first started. I think for me, I would be glad if he was 16. I don't want him to be 20-year-old Robin. But
I think
he's got to be a teenager. He's got to be a kid.
Yeah, they did it. Well, and they had the right idea in Batman Forever. Chris O'Donnell was just too old. He was more like a Nightwing, age person. But I know he was supposed to be 17.
Pardon me. I was going to reference that there are things in Batman Forever between Dick and Bruce that they got right. There's some really great scenes.
The origin they did that well in Batman.
Listen,
Forever.
the whole sequence where Dick shows up at Wayne Manor. And then he shows them the cars and the motorcycles, and then Alfred comes out with the food and says, "Oh, pity, I'll just feed this to the dogs." It's one of my favorite scenes out of any Batman film. It really is. But the problem is you have a Robin too young in 2016. Not only is it creepy, it's illegal. on top of being illegal, right? There's just it's an absolute crime to have a child do this. And then if you have a kid that's late teens that looks like Chris O'Donnell, my initial thought was, dude, why does Bruce have to take this guy in? Get a freaking job, man. Bruce, hook him up with an apartment, go get a job. You're like, you have a motorcycle.
Yeah, he's supposed to be 17 in the film, but I mean,
I understand.
If they had cast a younger actor, it would have made more sense. It would have been more realistic, I guess, or believable, is what I'm trying to say.
The sweet spot is interesting. What I would personally love to see, because Robin is the first thing that comes to my mind, because I struggle with this. I vacillate with this whole Robin thing on film. Is if you have I feel like you have to show it at some point with him being young. And by young, 12, 13 might be pushing it, but let's say 15, 16, which by the way is still freaking young. It's like a sophomore in high school. I mean, think about that. That's nuts. Okay? But you have that where we get the visual and we get the sense of history, but maybe in that time period, it is a lot like how Chris O'Donnell's Robin was in the initial stages of Batman Forever, where he's going out, he's rogue. He's doing it on his own, and Batman and Bruce doesn't want him to do it. Mm-hmm. You can't do this. You're a kid, and obviously he would have to have made the costume. He bails Batman out a few times, just like in Batman Forever. Like you could have those moments, and then in flashback sequences, it might obviously be more than one actor doing this, but you see him kind of grow with Batman in a story. How they would do it, pull it off would be a little tricky, and then you can have it like what Justin says, where you can have suddenly like an 18-year-old Robin who is not far off from becoming Nightwing, but still have that dynamic with them in the car and true crime-fighting partners. I would want to see it all. Because if you see it all, it would make sense. Then Robin's not too old, and then he's not too young because he's a rebellious teenager and Bruce can't control him. And that would be my vote. And how they would pull it off, I don't know.
Or they could just do Damian. just have Talia drop him off on the doorstep and be like, here's your son, and he's already trained and he knows all that. And I think that's something that is kind of kept in mind, and why Damian was kind of made is because like he's a kid, but it gives reason and context to why Batman has this kid and why this kid's so good at this stuff. Yeah, and it just provides provides a fun dynamic, honestly.
It's like Hit Girl.
That's just me personally. I never was a fan of the Damian stuff, but you're right.
It took damn near 10 years for me to like Damian, but I think that was on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you guys a question before we get off the Robin topic, if you guys don't, because I'm just curious, because we've talked about this in the past many times. As it stands right now, in context of this particular conversation, and if, Justin, if you don't mind, I'll start with you, and then who do you think that Robin is that's dead in BVS in the new DCEU?
Jason Todd.
Ryan?
Yeah. Has to be Jason Todd. If they don't make it Jason Todd, they're doing something wrong.
And our host, our captain, what do you think?
I would think it's Jason Todd, but I know y'all disagree with me, but I think it would be more impactful if it was Dick Grayson, because that's the Dick Grayson everyone in the mainstream. I mean, that's the Robin everyone knows. Dick Grayson is Robin to the mainstream. So I'm just that would be my preference just based on an impact, but I think it's Jason Todd.
Yeah. I do too. Okay, Bill, sorry. I didn't mean to steal the host.
No, all right.
Will there. I wanted to get that on the record. I thought it was a good time to ask that question again.
All right. They're going to want to use Nightwing.
They're going to want Nightwing.
All right.
Now, if I could just say this real quick, because I mean, I went on about the Robin thing. For me, in terms of too comic booky, I don't want to get too comic booky. I don't want to see a Mr. Freeze. I just don't see how you do that and pull it off in a grounded fashion. But you certainly could do things like the Penguin that really is tricky. That's a tricky guy to pull off on film. And I would love to see
the Penguin?
The Penguin.
No,
he's just a gangster.
But here's what, just in the same reasons that Nolan said he's a hard one to pull off, because what kind of character is he? Is he kind of a mob boss that's wreaking havoc behind the scenes? What threat does he really pose to Batman?
I thought Chris, and I know that makes people mad when I refer to Mr. Nolan as Chris, but you know what? Whatever. I know that he said that about the Penguin, but I think it was a missed opportunity. He could have had Oswald Cobblepot be one of the those mob bosses in The Dark Knight easily, and the club that Batman went into to find Maroni could have been the Iceberg Lounge for for all, you know.
That's what I always kind of.
Yeah.
But then
I think
he's a backdrop character then at that point, though. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
yeah.
He's not.
That's not a bad thing.
I don't mean behind the curtains. I mean as the main villain.
I don't know if you could make the Penguin the main villain of a film.
Even in the comics anymore, he's not really a main villain.
He's not.
I think it'd be cool. He could have been cool even if he was. He could even have been in The Dark Knight Rises when you think about it, like because that ties into the whole themes of like people, you know, with their gilded, you know, outlook on life and everything. He could have swooped in, and after the mob's all done in The Dark Knight, he just kind of like under the radar starts taking over a bunch of stuff, and he's sitting pretty in The Dark Knight Rises, and when Bane does all of his stuff, like he's got nothing, and he's pissed, and he starts trying to make a different, you know, and he just kind of would be another faction with Bane and everything. I think he could have worked in Dark Knight Rises too.
Yeah. What does he look like, Ryan? I'm just curious.
He's just a dude. He's just a guy.
Well, I mean, I think what I like about the Penguin, they had a really cool miniseries when the New 52 came out. It was called I think it was called Penguin Pride and Prejudice or something like that.
Pain and Prejudice.
Pain and Prejudice, yeah, and it was a really good origin story for him, I thought. But with the Penguin, you know, he's the mob boss, but he also has a legitimate club, Iceberg Lounge, whatever. He's a gun runner. Again, he's an informant. He's somebody Batman doesn't really lock up, but he shakes them down. You know, Batman's always breaking through his. I love when Batman breaks through windows.
Rick, I don't know if you know. I don't know. Did you play any of the Arkham games?
Oh yeah.
Rick.
No.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
The way the Penguin's done in the Arkham games.
I haven't played video games since 1993.
Okay. I'm just saying.
I don't mean that like I'm too cool for school.
Yes, you do. Anyway, the way they did the Penguin in the Arkham games, I thought was really good. And I also will bring up, and I'll see what Ryan thinks.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're going to say.
The way he's done in the Telltale series is pretty. It's pretty inspired. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, and I was going to say that it's actually probably one of the most freshest reinterpretations of the Penguin in years. It's really well done. If you kind of think of what they were trying to do with maybe a Tommy Elliott, they kind of have done that with the Penguin in that in that game. Exactly. It's more they've tied that character in with Bruce Wayne from an early age, and what they've done with it is pretty darn good. And I would not be, and they've kind of reinterpreted what the Penguin is and could be, and I would not. I would kind of like to see that interpretation in other forms too.
I saw that in that walk.
We even get the monocle next week when episode 4 comes out.
Oh, does it? I know it's coming out. I know about the monocle. Don't tell me that stuff yet. I don't
so
it's in that trailer, but
that's really cool because going back to the movie no one wants to talk about, like the Batman Returns, like the Cobblepots being a part of Gotham's, you know, history, you know, just like the Elliots. I like that idea too. Because what did Max Shrek say something about like you guys could have been pals in boarding school or something like that, you know? And I know
go ahead, Justin.
No, I was gonna say I know they kind of touch upon that in the Telltale, just from that thing I saw that Ryan sent out. That,
and I know none of us are fans of Gotham, but even the Penguin in Gotham is probably the best thing about.
Well, he was
when I was watching it. I haven't watched it. In, you know,
he's not now. Good God.
You're still torching yourself with that series?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let's get in another question. Well, we'll kind of rapid fire some of these. We're about 45 minutes into the podcast. All right. Craig wants to know if there are any plans for The Long Halloween to get the animated DC movie treatment.
Where's Craig from? Is this mailbag or Twitter?
This is on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm pulling a lot of these on Facebook right now. So, what I said was, I'm sure they've discussed it. I don't know if it's feasible. That story is just, I think it's way too long to do it properly in an animated 70-minute animated film. Even if you did a two-parter like Dark Knight Returns, the Long Halloween is a much long, I mean, no pun intended, it's a longer story than The Dark Knight Returns. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think there was I think it was the Canada Fan Expo this year. Conroy and Hamill were actually in a panel, and they kind of teased that they might be doing Hush and Death in the Family.
Yeah.
Dude, Hamill's back. He's like, I'm out. I'm back.
I'm back again.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess the way I ask you, would you want to see it as an animated film, or would you say that it's just too big of a story to do it right? And I think you can maybe you could adapt it in a certain way, some sort of. I don't know how you tell that story because all the seasons,
go big with it.
All the seasons,
go big with it.
The seasons and the holidays, all the calendar. I mean, that's integral. It's important to the story. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Man,
Well, what if
I look at Batman animated films at this point kind of like I look at Dan Brown movies. Like, I love the source material, and so far, whether it's Da Vinci Code or The Killing Joke, I just said you can end it here for all I care. So, I don't know. There's nothing about it that appeals to me personally.
All right.
Here's what I would love to see.
All right.
Let's do something crazy that they haven't done before, and they release a new episode along Halloween every month for, 13 months.
Well, that would be cool.
You could do a Netflix thing or something. Yeah,
something like I think it has to be not. You can't binge watch this. It's got to come out every
seasonal.
Month. A holiday. Mm-hmm. So, comes out like, week before Christmas, week before Halloween, all that type of stuff. I think that would be really cool. And they can be 15-minute segments. I watch my kids, we watch Teen Titans every week. Mm-hmm. They're like 11-minute segments, and I think you might be able to make it happen in that way. I don't know.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Well, maybe James,
it could be 30 minutes. Who knows?
Maybe James Tucker's listening. I did throw out. I'd like to see. I've mentioned it before. Gotham by Gaslamp.
Oh, that would be great.
Gaslight.
Yeah. I'm sorry. And and I know James Tucker wants to do it. He said it's on his top of his wish list that he pushes when they kick around ideas. All right. So we talked about this last week. I want to hear. But we'll bring it up again. Chance says, there's still no director for The Flash. When do you think Warner Brothers will announce a new director, or will they announce they're going to push the film back? I agree with Neil, and I agreed with Neil before he even said it last week. I think, and I've been very, I've never thought the Flash film. I think, let me put it this way. I thought there was a good chance it would never come to pass, even though they announced it. So I don't know if with Rick Famuyiwa leaving makes it less likely. Probably does, makes it a little less likely to happen. But I do think they're going to push it back, and I do think they'll move Aquaman up. That's my thoughts. What do y'all think?
I agree.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Rick, where you stand? You think The Flash gets made ever as a film?
I think it gets made if these next couple of films are well received.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's on the table if these next two films work.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Ryan Seaman says, and Rick, I want to start with you because you mentioned this a second ago. Would you like to see Mr. Freeze get another shot as a villain in the new continuity? I mean, I guess the DCEU Batman continuity. Is that just too much?
How do you say no in Spanish?
Nada.
No, sir, I would not. Personally, I think there are some untapped, grounded villains that I want to see first. And I know they're mainstream. And one of the things I love about Batman Begins is that Nolan dug deep and gave us villains that were not expected to be in a mainstream film. And I applaud him for that. I applaud what Ben Affleck's doing as well. I think that's fantastic. At the same time, we the aforementioned Penguin, and then I still want to see the Riddler done well on film. Mm-hmm. And once that's out of the way, then I want to dig deep in the rogue gallery and pull up all kinds of cool characters that might work. Mr. Freeze is not on that list.
Yeah, I did say this. I said this in the
Who's not cooler than Mr. Freeze, man?
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze is Mr. Freeze is cool in the comics and in animated stuff and everything. I don't necessarily think everything needs to be brought to film.
You just missed a big pun, man.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry. What did you say? I did miss it.
Who's not cooler than Mr. Freeze?
Hey now.
Yeah. Zing. I did say that in the mailbag that I thought Batman's got a great rogues gallery, and many of them are grounded in some, quote unquote realistic, or could be adapted to be in a grounded and realistic universe. Mr. Freeze, I think Mark Hughes years ago wrote a piece, how to Nolanize a lot of these Batman villains. I think his take on Mr. Freeze was like he was not actually walking around like a frozen human being that has to live in a suit, but it was more the Mr. Freeze part came from how he kills his victims. It was like it wasn't like a freeze gun, but it was some sort of like basically he shot him and it whatever there was some sort of chemical or whatever compound that was in the dart or whatever he used that made their body freeze up, but whatever, I don't know. So there's
yeah, I mean we're in the age of they put Killer Croc in Suicide Squad, so I think anybody and everybody is on the table, really, and I just want to whoever they use, I just want it to make sense in whatever movie.
It's at a point to where some stuff would just look silly next to Batman.
Yeah,
I thought Doomsday really worked. I thought.
Yeah, there you go. So I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly.
That's even bigger. That's even bigger point, Rick. They did Doomsday, so they can do anything. They can do anything, but whether they should is another question.
Exactly.
Going back to
Freeze,
the Arkham games, Mr. Freeze, that whole scene creeped me out in playing
he's
that
awesome.
game.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like he doesn't have powers. He does have a freeze gun, so I don't think that's a stretch to interpret, really.
Probably not. I mean,
I think in a lot of ways you can look at it and say what Nolan did with Bane is, somewhat akin to what you could do with Mr. Freeze.
The best
arguably, I would say that Mr. Freeze is trickier to use, not based on his powers or his shtick, but more on his, emotional spot in the story. Almost like Two-Face, how he was used in The Dark Knight, like. That one reason they kind of kill him is it just makes sense for the story. That's his arc, If you do Mr. Freeze and you do the Nora, all that stuff, like you can only really kind of use him once, or he just kind of waters him down, for the lack of a better pun.
Yeah, it would be cool with Mr. Freeze. Sorry, not cool. I'll try not to say that. For him, if you use him in a story, I don't want him to be the main villain, but it would be cool just to see him. Maybe it's the opening scene, like one of those deals where I think everyone's always like, why don't they do an opening scene? Batman takes down a villain, and then you don't really see the villain again. Maybe you see him 2 movies down in
a James Bond opening type deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the Rhino in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I didn't hate that. I didn't hate.
I thought it was terrible. It was terrible.
I'll have to. I didn't hate Amazing Spider-Man 2. So anyway,
I did.
So,
My God.
I hated it. I just didn't hate that scene.
No. All right.
I think all Spider-Man movies suck except for Spider-Man 2, and that's it. That's just my view.
Spider-Man 2?
Spider-Man 2 is genius. It's top 5 best comic book films ever.
I would agree.
The rest, all three, the other 2 Raimi films, and then both of the Andrew Garfield Facebook films.
I wasn't a big fan of Spider-Man 3, but the original was pretty good, I thought. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, this will be... It's going to make Justin...
William Dafoe makes me want to come out of my skin.
That Green Goblin's kind
of... like, overrated actor in Hollywood.
Anyway, well, he's a DC EU... He's an Aquaman dude, so get ready.
I know. I'm not thrilled about it. It's like, it reminds me of when you're taking film acting classes and you grew up in the theater, which I actually made that transition, and how much grounded you have to be, and everything's more in your face and your eyes as opposed to your entire body and your voice, and you're not trying to reach the audience member sitting 10 rows back. All of that stuff is out the window with William Dafoe. He gets on film, and it's like he's just on stage in front of 5,000 people, and the very person far back has to hear him and see him, and that's his film performances to me. Okay, that's my rant on William Dafoe.
This is like William Dafoe hate all out of the blue for some reason.
Send all hate mail to I hate William Dafoe at Juno.com.
All right. Here, Juno, Jesus.
Last time I played a game, I was using Juno.
This question will make Ryan and Justin happy, and maybe myself a little bit too. I don't know about Rick. Where is it here? Gabe says, I haven't been reading any Batman comics since Endgame concluded. What should I read, and when is it available on? I guess he's wanting to know when Endgame's going to come as a trade, or he wants to know it's going to be as a hardcover graphic novel. But let's focus on the first part.
Yeah.
What he should be reading in the comics. I think my favorite Batman comic right now is All-Star Batman. And I'm a big fan of Scott Snyder, and it's really, he's done some stuff, taking Batman out of his element. I mean, he's in the day, and it's just crazy, this whole thing. I mean, are y'all reading All-Star Batman?
Oh yeah, it's great.
I think it's great, and I think Batman is okay. It's okay to good, and I dropped Detective. I couldn't get through. I couldn't get through the first story arc with Detective. And maybe I need to revisit, but that's just where I'm at. So I'll turn it over to what are y'all reading? What do you think?
Well, here I'll be in the middle. I absolutely love the Batman book. Tom King is like, he's taking it back to, like, when Snyder started with New 52, it was really good. And I would say his whole run's really good. There's a few missed spots, like 0 Year, like whatever. But this Batman title is absolutely my favorite. The only thing I didn't like was the Monster Men couple issues. Like, that was kind of what I mean. It was fun, but it was like, it didn't.
It was a detour, though. Anyway,
it was a big detour, I thought.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like, man, don't do that in the movies. That would be a bad idea. But it's been, the first arc is good, and this, I Am Suicide is really interesting. It's a little bananas, but I like it. I think it's my favorite Batman book currently because I think it's just hitting all my Batman needs. I like All-Star Batman, but it's almost too weird for it to be like, it's too off the wall. Not weird. It's so off the wall that but it's but it's not like, oh man, like I don't know if I want this storyline to go on as forever as the Batman story is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then
I'm glad it's a once a month thing.
Yeah. Sorry. And then Detective, I actually got a lot of crap from Ryan, so I went back and I got the first couple issues, and it just felt so like, hey, we're all happy and we're a family, blah blah blah, But I like I'm not going to spoil anything, but there's a really cool stuff going on with Batwoman and Batman, so I like that. And so I'll put that at my, it's tied for second with All-Star Batman. So that's also, but also definitely read these books. I think the Batline's been the strongest it's been in a long time right now with Rebirth.
Hey, Bill, did you happen to reread this latest issue of Batman and see if you could see my comment about oh my God.
I did.
Did you get it?
Yeah,
I was reading it. I'm like reading it over and over again. Like,
Tom King is doing something different with the narrative on this one. Like, there's a lot.
I know.
I
know. But so for my comics, I love Detective. I think it's great. For whatever reason, it's really hitting what I felt was missing from a lot of the Bat books in terms of the Batman family. It's a good Batman family book, honestly.
Yeah.
And I'm as much as I just gave Tom King's Batman, I'm enjoying it too. Superman, if you want to look at non-Batman stuff, the Superman books have been really fantastic. Action has been very good, and actually, Superman proper has just been really, really excellent because it's kind of like echoing what they did with Batman and Damian a few years ago, and now Superman's a dad. And this last issue has Batman and Superman,
and Robin.
Batman and Superman training their kids, Superboy and Robin, and it's just a ton of fun. It's really good.
That's actually my favorite book that DC's putting out right now.
I have one question about
it's
Superman.
so good.
And I am I'm not caught up. I haven't read it in a while. But have they, without spoilers, have they rectified the Clark Kent deal yet, or is that still
the mystery Clark Kent?
Yes.
No, they have not. That's just still a mystery.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I don't know anything about that because I'm not reading Action. I'm just reading Superman.
Yeah. I was reading Action. Okay. All right.
Well, in Superman, they've got, and in one issue, they have Superman has to avoid some kind of threat, and they go to some Justice League bunker that Batman's made, and they have to infiltrate it and use it to their advantage. And then Lois Lane, spoilers, has to get in a giant Batman mech suit. It's so crazy, but so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so good. And one other book, have any of you guys been reading Trinity? Man, Trinity.
Yeah, I read my buddies.
It's good. It's really good.
All right.
Trinity is. I've got that on my to-do list.
Okay, I like Trinity by Matt Wagner. Just to bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, then you might like this. Then.
I like Matt Wagner stuff. I love Batman and the Monster Man, and what was the other one? Batman and the
Mad Monk.
Mad Monk. Yes, Mad Monk.
How are you guys getting your comic books these days? Are you getting them online? Are you old school? Are you digital? Are you going to comic book stores? What are you doing these days?
Here's what I do. I buy them digital, and then the ones I do order from Midtown Comics, ones that I want to have. Like I do order the traditional issues of like Dark Knight 3, and I got when Batman 1 and stuff like that. I'll order collections, trade paperback and stuff. But I read digitally. It's just much easier. It is just. I mean, frankly, It's just a lot easier. I mean, you buy it and it's there. You don't have to go drive to the comic book store, which I miss that a little bit, driving to the comic book store. But on the other hand, I don't. So.
That's just it. I think trips to the comic book store are now like the last man standing because all Blockbusters are closed, right? Everything you have to do now is online.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find. I have to drive to Denton to a good comic book store, and a frame of reference of that.
Oh my gosh.
45 minute to an hour drive for me.
There's not a good comic book store in Plano?
They're not any good. You go to the Batman section. There's some new stuff that's out that's great, and I really need to be getting caught up because I'm just more on a nostalgia kick these days. But like I just reread Justice by Alex Ross last week, 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Still love it, and a lot of it to this was like I'm just kind of gearing up for Justice League stuff, and but I need to probably get into where I'm ordering things digitally. I do everything else. It's not like I'm some old guy that doesn't understand how to use computers. I shop online.
Just go to
there's a lot of good
Entertainment.
sales that they have.
Yeah,
they just had a Watchmen sale where everything was like $1 for everything Watchmen or 99 cents or whatever.
See, that's killer.
Yeah, so they have good deals digitally sometimes. I still go to the shop. It's cheaper because I get a discount on my books, and I've just been going there since I was like 12, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same like joint. So I still enjoy that. If online became cheaper, I might switch. There is some stuff I read digital. Like I'll dip in if there's a sale and get some stuff. But primarily I'm like the core books I pick up, I'll pick up hard copies. And then, there are some cool spots online. If you ever want trades, I go to discounttrades.com, and they have like the best prices. They're usually like 50% off.
Yeah, you told me that. I'm still using Midtown Comics, but I need to shake myself. And anyway, okay.
Well, I just want to say R.I.P. Lone Star Comics in Mesquite, Texas. Man, I miss you. And the cool thing is that it was next door to an AMC theater, and I can't tell you guys, in 89 and 90, I lived in that theater watching the original Batman 1,000 times, and then I'd spend 2 hours in that comic book store. I think back on that going, man, that was just great memories. I'd either start at the comic book store, then go to the movie, or vice versa, just depending on logistics. And man, I'm just thinking back on that.
When I was a kid, I don't remember we didn't have a comic book store anywhere near me that I knew of. And then but the comics were like in all convenience stores. You go in and they had those racks of comics. That's where as a kid, I bought my comics off the rack in convenience stores. And then I'll shout out to, I don't know if it's still, I got to check and see if it still exists, in Port Arthur, Texas, which is right. I grew up in Southeast Texas. So I don't know, Rick, you may be familiar a little bit, Beaumont, Port Arthur, Golden Triangle, but I grew up in Groves, Texas. Port Arthur's next door. They had the book stand. That was my comic book store when I was in high school and college, and even in the 90s, up until the 90s. And then here in Houston, there is a good comic book store. They have like 2 or 3 stores. It's called Bedrock City Comics. So they're really good. So I need to get back in the comic book store just to get in there and check it out. Mm-hmm. So, all right. Let's start winding this up. I got one more question. And Rick's going to love this one. And this is from Jason. And he says, "We all know how much you love the trilogy and rave about it at every possible opportunity." Which I agree with 100%. This is him saying he agrees with me. And he would agree with Rick, and you would concur that you love the trilogy, right, Rick? And and Ryan?
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Justin kind of loves it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
You love it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You got problems with Rises, but anyway.
Yeah, I love it.
And also know you've been championing Ben Affleck as Nolan's successor since long before he awed us in the role and confirmed his directorial duties. That being the case, do you see a possibility, you know where this is going, guys? Do you see the possibility of him doing a better film or series than Chris Nolan?
Ben Affleck doing a better film than Chris Nolan? Yeah, I absolutely think he's capable of doing a better film. For sure. I don't think that we have reached the pinnacle of Batman films, that's going to be the beacon of all Batman films from here to the end of time. I think to date that they are, and I think that we will look back on those 200 years from now and say, this is where it started. This is why Batman's great on film. And so for that, they'll transcend. But absolutely he can. There's all sorts of things that he could do to make a better film. And I, for one, have faith in him.
Yeah. The one thing he has is he has the future, you know, like he can look back and see what Nolan did and even borrow and pull like elements and make it his own. I mean, it's you know, Nolan's at a disadvantage in this contest now because he's done. You know, he's walked away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But he's still done something that we all love and adore. And I'm sure Affleck, you know, respects those films and you know, maybe he adores them as well. I don't know what his thoughts are. You know, I mean, everyone says in Hollywood, oh, those are great movies. Yeah, you know. But, you know, he has the opportunity to do something, you know, bigger. Maybe not better, because better is a hard thing to really paint on there because, you know, Nolan's films were done well. And so I hate saying better because it's always this like fanboy one-upness thing. But I think it could be, I just hope for Affleck to do good films. And so we can go, oh man, Affleck's films were good, Nolan's films were good. And then, you know, and go on from there. Like whoever is next, hopefully their films are good too.
Here's how I'll put it. And he's right. I have, Affleck was my guy to take over. Even when Chris was still doing it, I was like, man, I want Affleck to take over, you know, thinking that maybe the series would continue. But I think we're lucky to have a director and writer of his caliber and his stature doing this, doing the solo Batman film. That's the way I'll put it. And I will always, you know, that trilogy, man. Batman Begins was on TV on like AMC the other night. All of those films just hold up so well. Yeah, they hold up well. Anyway, got to get off on that. And my point was, I always loved the trilogy. But hey, if I love Ben Affleck's film more, it's not going to take away from how I feel about the Dark Knight trilogy. That's great in my book. If he can make a film that great, that wonderful. So I'm just happy to have him. I'm glad that's the dude that I wanted to take over, and I think he's a great filmmaker, and I'm glad we have him.
Hey, I'll put it like this: when I saw Batman and Robin, I'm sitting in the theater watching it, and about 20 minutes into it, I thought to myself, "My God, the Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson original film's the last great Batman film."
Oh no,
it's over. Batman Returns was awful. Batman Forever was a miss in my view, and then Batman and Robin was just silly. And then we got the Nolan trilogy. Now, that's going from like worst to great. So that dichotomy is not there. But at the same time, if I reference Batman '89 and then I reference the Nolan trilogy and pretend like there was nothing in between, we went from great to greater. You know what I'm saying? So absolutely, I think that filmmakers can build on what people have done in the past. And Nolan held, or at least he claimed to, the '89 Batman film in very, very high regard. Which, by the way, I put that movie to me I still love it. And in a lot of ways, it's as good to me as the Nolan trilogy in its own right. So, yeah, we have 4 great Batman films to date. We can certainly have a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be foolish to think that nothing could ever top the Dark Knight trilogy, or that we don't want anything to top the Dark Knight trilogy, because what would we have to look forward to? I mean, we have to give the filmmakers a shot to make worthwhile new Batman stuff, and I think that it's healthy and it's good to hope for the best and hope for something great.
Yeah,
absolutely. One last question from Twitter, and we just do this quickly, and I want to kind of direct this more to Justin and Ryan, because I think this is where they Well, you'll understand when I read the question. With it, Trevor asked at Trevor AFW7D on Twitter, with its continued popularity, do you think Warner Brothers DC will ever revisit the Batman the Animated Series as a TV show again? And we've talked about all of us wanting another Batman TV series, animated TV series. I wish there was. I think they cut bait on Beware the Batman too soon. But anyway,
they did.
I don't think so. I think you don't mess with what they did. I don't know if you would want to go revisit that again. That's just my opinion.
I think that if they do something, they certainly could do another standalone solo animated film set in that world with those. And I think that is the most we could hope for. I think at this point there is so much history and lore and everything built up in the Bruce Timm universe that if they do something, it should be kind of very meaningful if they bring it back for any reason. Well, it doesn't have to be. It could be just another Batman story set in that universe before all of the set earlier or something. So, but I do think it's one of those things where I don't think that they could just bring it back as a straight Batman the Animated Series revival. I think if they do anything or should do anything, it should just be as a standalone movie.
Yeah, I don't think they are going to go back to that well again. That's just my personal take. Any thoughts, Justin and Rick? Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, if they ever came back to that world, I wouldn't complain. I really loved it. So that being said, it's also good to do new stuff. I know they got the Justice League action thing coming out, and then Young Justice season 3. I'm excited about that. So DC has some good animated stuff going on, and I would just say, it's always good to go back to your collection and rewatch that stuff. But the new stuff's fun. Like even Teen Titans Go. I want to do a whole episode on Teen Titans Go.
Speaking of the Batman animated series, they got to release that as a box set on Blu-ray. That's got to get done.
That and Mask of the Phantasm. Geez.
Well, someone did ask about that. I was told, stay tuned. I'm sure it's happening. I wouldn't be surprised. 25th anniversary coming up.
Yeah, next year.
Next year, I would.
Good Lord,
it wouldn't surprise me. Rick, real quick, what was the Batman the Animated Series to you? Did it have a big influence on your Batman sensibilities, or were you already there with the way you felt about
No, absolutely.
Batman?
I thought after Batman '89, the animated series was like, this is the perfect Batman movie someone needs to make. That was my war cry, and that was my show. And what year did that debut? 93?
92.
92?
92,
right.
Yeah.
Me too. And I love that Danny Elfman's score was in it as well. And to me, it was like everything that Batman Returns could have been. And then obviously the Joe Schumacher films were in pre-production or maybe starting to be, whatever. But yeah, I love it. I still love it. I love the stories. I love the characters. I love the animation. I love the voices. I love everything. It's my favorite. It probably always will be, just because I don't get a chance to keep up with a whole lot of it anymore anyway. So it just remains in my consciousness, so to speak.
Very good. All right. We're not going to answer this one, but I want you all to think, you three to think about this, and myself. Tom McLellan at Tom McLellan.
Our pal Tom.
Oh, Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
Good old Tom. I kind of like this. I got to think about it though. I can't answer it without.
I have answers for this already.
Let's all wait till the next show. It says, Jett, if you had to cast Rick, Ryan, and Justin as Batman villains, who would you cast them as and why? So we're all going to do that. So each one of us do that for the other three, and we'll talk about that on the next podcast. So with that said, I already know what I'm going to cast Rick as, but I'm going to leave that as a surprise.
Well, can you cast me as Bane? There's something that would be very rewarding that I could break backs, since I'm having all these back issues right now.
We had a conversation. Yeah, Rick, send good vibes. You're toward Rick's direction if you're listening. He's still got back issues, even with all the surgeries he's had. We talked about that yesterday. So get well, Rick. Come on, man. It's
time to get back into my fighting self, man.
Yes. All right.
Damn it.
let's plug some stuff. Justin, go ahead. You got a little special plug and story.
Yeah, it'll all be downhill from Justin's. So he needs to go first.
Yeah, so it's right now. This is a very important thing for me. I know a little boy named Danny Gonzalez. He's 8 years old. He's starting a GoFundMe, and so here's his little story really quick. For most of his life, he's been fighting stage 3 acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and this has been going on since he was 1 year old. And again, he's 8 years old now. So he's been in and out of the hospital and getting chemotherapy every day for 6.5 years, right? So as of September 9th, he had his last day of chemotherapy, and this is going to be the first time he's going to be able to be home for the holidays and be with his family. So since he's out, though, he wants to care for other kids that are still in the hospital, and he has this big, grand idea to give toys to the kids that are there. A lot of them are his friends because he's been there with them. And how this ties into us, he wants his good friend Batman to help him deliver presents. So in the past, I have been Batman for him for his birthday and a few times hanging out with him. So I've hung out with him a little bit as Batman. So he's all, hey, I'm going to do this. And Batman, he just said, Batman's going to help me deliver presents. So Batman's going to show up on December, I believe it's going to be December 7th. And so we don't have a big timeline. So what I want to do is just share this story and see if, in the heart of Bruce Wayne helping people, if a lot of our listeners would be able to jump on board and be a part of his GoFundMe and, give a little cash if you can, just to help this little guy do something great for some other kids. It's going to be Christmas time, and his heart's big, man. And just like it gets me a little emotional, like just thinking about, like, man, he's out and he's thinking about everybody else. So
hey,
if you can go
send me that stuff. I'll put it. We'll put it on Batman on Film proper. We'll put it on the Facebook page. We'll put it on Twitter, and of course, it's going to be on the podcast. So go ahead, finish up, man.
Yeah. So if you go to his GoFundMe page, it's GoFundMe.com/Danny's Christmas Drive. And great. If you put it up on the Twitter and everything, that would be amazing. So he wants to buy a bunch of gifts for everybody. And, when he was in the hospital, there were so many people that kind of loved on him and, gave his family gas cards and stuff and, food money because they couldn't go to work a lot. They were driving back and forth to the hospital. So it just meant a lot for his family to be, cared for and loved on. And so, again, little 8-year-old kid, he's just like, can we do this for others? And so he really is a superhero, man. This kid, he is strong and he fought through this. So can you imagine 6.5 years, and fighting this? And so, so if all of the Batman on Film listeners can join us and rally and give what you can, do something awesome. Be like Batman, guys.
Yes. All right, that's Batman, amazing. BOFers, I want you to do this. I'll take it as a personal, I don't even know how to put it. I would just, I want you to do
gratitude.
it. Gratitude. Yes. I do it, do this. And Ryan, one more time, what's that GoFundMe page? I'm sorry, Justin, go ahead.
What is it, Justin? Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah. It's GoFundMe.com/Danny's Christmas Drive.
All right, very good.
Wait, one more time. Danny's
DANNYS Christmas Drive.
Okay.
Yeah, Danny's Christmas Drive.
All right.
No abbreviations, not Xmas.
Yeah, it's
okay. Cool.
And that I'm going to have this on Batman on Film. I have it on the Batman on Film Facebook and on Twitter. So, Justin, when you get a chance, send me an email with all that information, please.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else you want to plug?
Just Let's Go Cast episode 32 just came out yesterday. So if you want to check that out, we talk about Doctor Strange and a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's probably what people would be interested in hearing. So.
All right. Very cool. All right. Ryan, what you got?
Follow me on Twitter at SMB_Ryan. And Rick, our pal Tom McClellan also had an extra question about us, what our favorite Star Wars movies were. So maybe you should talk about what we might be doing in the future.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to plug that. We are the BOF guys, Bill excluded. He's just not into this as we are. And then our guest, Zaki Husan. Everybody knows Zaki from Zaki's Corner and the Huffington Post, super guy. He's agreed to come on. And Mark Hughes might, I almost hate to say it because Mark is traveling, but he's really going to try to do the show with us. But Zaki's definitely booked, and then Ryan and Justin and myself. And we're going to do a Star Wars podcast. And we're going to put it on BOF. I'm going to produce it and everything. So Bill's hands are clean and this thing sucks. But it'll be great. It'll be a great conversation. And in fact, about a year ago, Bill was kind enough to produce a podcast, and it was just Mark Hughes and I, and we had an amazing conversation about Star Wars, and the recording was bad, and it never saw the light of day. And I was bummed for like a month.
Yeah,
because
it was good. So.
It was so good, and it's just lost in cyber world, right? So I'm excited about this one, and we're going to test everything before we record. But we are going to have a podcast. We're going to tape it on December 3rd. I'll have it up that Sunday, the 4th, or first thing Monday morning, the 5th, and it'll lead into Rogue One. And we're going to all discuss sort of what got us to fall in love with Star Wars, our favorite and least favorite Star Wars movies, what we're hoping to see in the Star Wars future, et cetera, et cetera. It should be a lot of fun. If you're into Star Wars, it'll be fun, and we'll obviously be making big announcements with that.
All right, anything else you want to plug, Rick?
Follow me on Twitter, Shew Rick, and if you are seeking refuge as a person that didn't like the outcome of the selection, please come over to Left Shoe Politics, SHEW. If you like the outcome of the election, go ahead and come on over as well. We'd love to have a chat with you. Keep it civil. And that's about it. And then follow my Batman on Film Shoes Facebook page. Again, I say this every week. It's just for fun. Nothing real earth-shattering or groundbreaking on that page, but and it's just for fun.
It's facebook.com/
it's Batman on Films Shoe. So it's films possessive of apostrophe S Shoe SHEW.
All right then. I'll let announcer Rachel plug my stuff for me, and we'll catch you next time. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for listening to the Batman on Film podcast, a proud member and sponsor of the Batman Podcast Network, BatmanPodcastNetwork.com. You can listen to the podcast via iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spreaker, and wherever good podcasts like this one can be found. Follow Jett on Twitter at Batman on Film and on the BOF Facebook fan page at facebook.com/Jett.BatmanOnFilm. Email Jett via Jett@Batman-on-Film.com. Follow Rick on Twitter at ShewRick and on Facebook at Facebook.com/BOFShew. For Jett, Rick, the BOF Roundtablers, Justin, and Ryan, I'm announcer Rachel. Thank you and good night.